Hi, so this is a decor piece that we started doing last year. We were able to find these iron trees with a tray in them that we can build a centerpiece with. And so it makes an awesome hall table sort of piece, or even a dining room if your dining room piece is big enough. Anyway, you'll know how to use it, but we'll show you how to make it. There are lights in here, so when this thing is lit up at night, it is truly beautiful. But Teresa's going to green it up, and I will come by and I'll decorate it just a little bit later.
All right, so we pre-lit the lights for you, just so it's you could do this at home, very easy, just winding your lights around there. If you choose you don't want to have them on here, you can actually weave it through your greens just at the base of it. It's your choice, whatever your eye wants to see. So we're going to start, I'm going to explain a little bit about the floral foam. The floral foam that we have in here, it is a wet foam. So when you get it home, you will have a chunk about this size. It's going to be dry. So you have yourself a bowl of water, place your floral foam, Oasis is another name for it, into that water. Let gravity take it down. It'll absorb all the moisture. It'll become floating at the bottom. As soon as it's submersed in the water, you're good to use it. Do not press it into the water. Pressing it into the water, what happens? It'll be wet on the outside, dry on the middle. When you stick your greens in, your greens are not going to drink any of the moisture that's there, because it's on the edge instead of right in the middle. So once it's submersed in the water, your floral foam is good to be placed in the tray. I put a piece of tape over it just so that it's a little bit secure in there. You can do that at home. You don't have to. I do it. It's just the way I do it. But it's your call at home if you want to do that or not. We are going to start with the fir. I like starting with the fir just because it's firmer. It gives you a nice base line of what you're going to be doing. We use red cedar, and we also use white pine. So starting with the fir, what I do is, so we're going to create kind of a nest, maybe a little bit coming out of about 2 inches. So you're getting a nice full look here and about that high. That high is about 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches, somewhere in there, not too high. You don't want it to come up to here. What I do is I lay my green down so I can measure how big of a piece I want. By doing this, you're making sure you're getting the max use out of your piece of green. We always try to cut our greens so that we can use everything. Very, very little waste. At the end of the day, we might have a stick like this that's left. And those sticks we will use later when we do our decorating. We tie berries onto them, pine cones onto them, anything like that. So minimal amount of waste that happens. With the fir, I'm going to start with these ones that I trimmed. I measured them out. Take the bottom needles off. It helps with the stem attaching into your floral foam without making the hole really big, and it'll end up falling out if the hole in the Oasis is so big that it just wiggles its way out. So pressing it in by a 1/2 inch, then you're making sure that it's in there and it's drinking water. So you're going to go around the base of the plant, or the foam, and making sure that you have enough in there, but it doesn't have to be jam full, because you must remember we are adding 3 types of greens in there. So just kind of going around. I have a wire coming across here, so I'll do a little bit underneath it. So I'm making this wire, it's going to be nicely nestled into your greens. Go around the outside edges. You go around the outside edge. Then what I do is I decide on my height that I would like. So about there. I do get my height in there. So just pressing it into the middle, maybe not about a 45-degree angle, not quite straight up and down, maybe a little bit slightly on an angle on the very center. Then when you're working in this middle area, there you do about a 45-degree angle. Keep in mind you want to taper your greens coming down. So don't keep these ones as long as these down here, because then you're going to start hiding your base part of it. So making sure that you're cutting your greens a little bit shorter as you're tapering it down. So I'm going to finish doing the pine or the fir here. I'm going to go and do that 45-degree angle all the way around. And like I said, you don't have to have your greens right on top of one another. An inch, 2 inches apart is perfect. So there, I had that piece left, which these I will actually use on something else. So if you have a little bit left over on your greens and if you want to use them on something else, you can do that at home. Sometimes it's nice just having some extra cut greens sitting on your table for the holiday season. So you can see how I have everything in there. I'm basically done with the fir. So I have my baseline. So now in between what I just did, I am going to start with my cedar, and I'm going to fill in the cedar around in between the fir, following the same pattern, the outside edges, your center, and then filling in this part here, keeping in mind that you're tapering from this height, tapering it shorter to a little bit shorter than your bottom greens. All right, so now we're going to do our cedar. Following that same step, you're going to go around the outside edges and then up through your middle. So just adding around the edge. Making it nice and full, but not too full. That nice happy medium. If you see a bit of the floral foam, that is quite all right. And setting it in so you're getting a nice mix of the fir and the cedar. Just going to turn this a moment so I can see what I'm doing on the back side. All right, so we're getting there, working our way around. Getting a nice blend. I'm going to get one more piece in there so you can see how much I'm using out of my stem. Basically, this is what I have left. And if it's a piece sitting there, just add get a little cut on it, make sure it's fresh. All right, so we are going to now add in our pine. And pine is a nice piece of greenery. Do make sure when you're cutting them, don't cut them too long, because you don't want them sticking out too far from your arrangement. It's nice when they're nestled in, but having them cascading, flowing out. So I cut my piece here. You are following kind of the same routine as what we did with the fir and the cedar. And going around the base, you don't have to put as much in on the pine as you did with the fir and cedar. So this is just a nice accent.
Is it also, Teresa, would you say, because their pine takes up sort of has a bigger presence,
It
right?
does. It does, yeah. So having just a minimal amount in there it just adds a nice, and it's a different texture than everything else. I'm going to put a couple longer pieces in. And I do take the needles off, just like on the fir. I pluck off some of the needles so it's not making a really large opening. And then I kind of press them in so that it's nice if they cascade a little bit down in a few areas. That is perfect. I have a piece of cedar here I'm just going to tuck in. And I want to mention that when you cut pine, I'll show you an example here. When you're cutting pine and you have a stem, probably longer than this, I'll just use this one as an example. Don't cut, if you're making two pieces, don't just go like this and cut, because then this piece you really cannot use. What you want to do is just move these. So this I want to cut into two pieces, for instance. You move a bit of the needles away and just take a little trim and pinch right in between there so that you have this piece and you can still use it. So now you got two pieces that are viable pieces rather than chopping it like this, and you can't really use that too terribly much. So that's really important when you're cutting your pine. And I think we are done with our greening. So you see how it's nicely flowing over. I do want to mention it is live green with a wet floral foam. So now at home, to take care of it, once it's all decorated, if you have a spray bottle with water handy, about every 3 days, just go with the spray bottle and you can mist the greenery. You can also take your arrangement, it's a little bit of a bowl here, so you can take your arrangement to your sink and just pour a little bit of water in. You could put your finger in the bowl. If you feel a little bit of water sitting in there, that's good enough. You don't have to have it full because you'll end up having a little bit of a mess on your table or wherever you're setting it. So just add a little bit of water in there and you're good. Your greens will last 6 to 8 weeks at home, and then you'll enjoy it for the holiday season.
So Teresa showed you how to put the greens into this beautiful iron holiday tree. It also has some mini lights or some sparkly teeny lights strung through it, through up the posts. But you saw all of that already, and I've actually already added a few berries. But I'm going to show you that what I normally do is take a full stem of berries like this, which is what you'll receive when you order your kit, and you can actually pull off sections of it. You certainly don't want to use a whole amount, a whole stem, so you pull off the pieces. It's designed to do that. It leaves you with a post that can go into the oasis, and you could even cut these pieces into half. Just cut where it hides the cut, so that you leave some berries at the bottom section and a decent stem on the top section, so it can again be inserted. Like I said, I've already put a few berries into this, into the holiday tree. Kept some a little bit longer, nestled some through the top, and added a few through that were a little bit shorter, that look a little more nestled in. My next thing that I am using, or the next item that I'm using to decorate this, is a gold leaf, a leaf that has a bit more bling on one side, a little duller on the other, and I've added it as well. And I almost always add leaves when I do them to where the berries are, to the position where the berries are, because it tends to ground them. You can't just stick them in willy-nilly, you probably won't like it. You should step back when you've done a little bit and take a look to see what it is that appeals to you. And if it appeals to you, there is not anyone that will tell you that it's not right. But these leaves are very moldable, and I still have a couple that I want to use. And I'm just going to keep adding them. One of them I didn't have a long enough stem, so I did wire to the bottom of it so that I could extend the whole look a little bit. Too far in and I wouldn't see it well with my greens hiding it. So I added a stem to it, and I've got one more individual one here that I believe I will add right here. So even though I said it, add the leaves to ground the berries, not every section of berries needs to have a leaf added to it, because you actually want to make it look a little different so that it's not entirely the same. The other stem that I'm using is, it looks a little like a dandelion head, and I don't really know what it is, but it's sparkly and beautiful, and so we will use it. One of the clusters, this is a big stem, it has many clusters on it. One of the clusters I wired a longer pick on because I thought I wanted it through the center. So I'll use that one first. And I think I should cut it a little bit shorter. The picks are very, very easy to cut, either with your pruners or with a wire cutter will work as well. So this is gold as well, but it is a little more of a muted gold and it has a little more sparkle on it. And I think for me it marries the brighter gold of the leaves and the sparkly white of the berries very well. It kind of joins them. It gives it a reason for both of them to be in there. And I'm just going to add a few of them here and there. Some I cut down to 3 clusters, some I cut down to 2 clusters, and I've definitely also used some that just had a single cluster. So when I need to wire a pick, like I will on this one, I'll just take a little bit of wire, wrap it very firmly around there, make sure that my wire is tight. We'll use one more of these. So like I said, it was a full stem and I just cut some of them off, and I believe that I will use the whole stem on this one. Actually, I won't. Use this. Never waste anything. If you feel like it's hidden too much anyway, take that piece off, use it in another decor piece somewhere. Certainly never waste it. Nope, I'm going to use it here. Most of the time I find that your initial instinct is the right one. But you can pull stuff out again out of your oasis and put it back in at a different spot if you prefer. But don't do that too often. Your oasis is going to start shredding. So at this point we'll call this finished, and just all you have to do is plug it in.